out there. So again, thanks for joining us. So I'm Dan, Key Account and Partner Training Manager for CYP. And with me is Kevin Craig. Good morning, Kev.
Good morning, everybody.
So that's
I'm a technical director, new product technical director. It's officially the title or something like that. It's actually too long. I always forget it.
/ singer
I'm not one of those people that's defined by their title.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So as everybody probably knows, we are known for a wide range of products now, including AV over IP, matrices, extenders, audio products, switches, converters, signal management tools, HDMI cables, and all of these can be used across a wide range of environments such as commercial, residential, medical, and industrial. So let's have a bit of a look at where we might be taking some of our products and technologies throughout the rest of 2021. So I'll sort of introduce them, and then Kev, feel free to add in any bits. I know we've got quite a few bits planned during the session.
I think we've got some Dante stuff later on in the presentation as well, haven't we?
Exactly, we do. For anyone that doesn't really know about Dante, Kev, what would you say is sort of
if you don't know about Dante, it's originally developed by a company called Audinate as a defined audio over network system. It's used, was originally used primarily in the live arena of music, live music events, but subsequently over its years of use, because it's been going for a number of years now, has become more and more popular in many settings. It moved through to recording studios very swiftly because of having lots of different live rooms and being able to wire those live rooms in a very flexible way, and has moved into the AV world in the presentation area of AV, and it's very useful. You've got very simple software tools. The most obvious one is there is 2 pieces of free software that you can download from Audinate. I'm actually just having a discussion with Audinate at the moment about whether I'm allowed to put them on our website as well. One is Dante Virtual Sound Card, which will take any PC or Mac and make it into a Dante in and out device. And the other one is a Dante controller, which is a very simple tick box in and output routing structure that allows you to very simply manage and control your entire Dante network. As I say, those are sort of free bits of software that you can download for Audinate. I'm hoping we'll be able to put them on our website as well, but I'm just waiting for Audinate to tell me whether that's actually something I'm allowed to do or not. But if not, it's a very simple download. The Dante Virtual Sound Card, you only really need to use that if you want to turn your computer you're using into a Dante input and output device, whereas the Dante controller is a necessity for being able to route around your Dante network and send audio to and from different Dante devices throughout the system. So the first products there we're going to be releasing is a simple Dante input and output transmitter and receiver, essentially. But then we will also start to integrate this into further products as we move forward. We're already working on an HDMI Matrix that has Dante I/O on it, as well as de-embedded balanced and unbalanced audio. So yeah, if you don't know much about it, it is pretty simple. There is configuration that you need to do, but in the vast majority of situations, it's pretty much a plug and play system. So it is very intuitive, and it is not that complicated. And as I said, mostly for most environments, unless you get to really big stuff where you have to kind of manage the multi-streams of it, it's pretty plug and play.
Wonderful, thanks, Kev. I know you've got a couple of products to show us in a few moments as well, in a few minutes, so we'll get on to that shortly.
Yep.
8K transmission, of course, a buzzword. Now, from our point of view, we've already got development in place, haven't we, Kev? For this, we're ready for it when the market picks up, essentially.
Indeed. I mean, what we've had some of the 8K transmitter and receiver chips in R&D for a little while now, and we're working on products towards that. Obviously, at the moment, like all of these things, it's always going to be driven by the sources that are available. And as I think most of you probably aware, the next gen games consoles that came out just before Christmas, not that anybody can actually get hold of one. If anybody's tried to buy a PS5, is it PS5? Yeah, PS5. They'll know the fun of trying to get one. So it is driven by these sources, but now that we have two actual sources, then obviously this allows us to focus more on that development because there's a reason to do so. So look out for 8K HDMI 2.1 compatible products. The thing about 8K or more importantly HDMI 2.1 is just not the 8K. It's also the higher refresh rate 4K imagery that you can get. So you can get, and this is especially relevant for gaming. Both of the new next gen consoles offer higher hertz rate gaming at 4K. So like 120 hertz 4K gaming, which is really good for gaming because you want that high refresh rate. So we'll be incorporating that as well into the 8K products that come through later in the year.
Superb. And that leads us on nicely to our ultra certified HDMI cables, which will be available within the first half of this year. So again, obviously in terms of cables, those are basically already in place. And as Kev said, then there's plenty of development in the background. So we're ready for it when the market's ready.
Those we'd have liked to have them out at the beginning of this year, but we needed to make sure they go through the official ultra high speed. Dan, it's ultra high speed, Dan. So I'm joking with Dan because he wrote an email last week where he called it premium, and we all take the mickey out of him for it.
That is true.
So we had to make sure they go through the ultra high speed certification from HDMI, which they now have done. So now they're in manufacturer, and we should get them in this quarter. It will either be it will either be the end of this quarter or at the very worst early April.
Thank you, Kev. Let's carry on through. So Hdbaset T3 and Avx, both of which look very promising, don't they, Kev?
Yeah. So Hdbaset, I'm sure you're aware of Hdbaset. So Hdbaset T3 is HDMI's uncompressed 6G development chip. So this is basically, again, both of these systems call themselves uncompressed, and they are in the way that they are not compressing in a normal way. But obviously, like Hdbaset, you've always known about Hdbaset. It's basically sort of an encoding and decoding system, because the reality is you've got a 10 gig pipe, and you need to get sometimes 18 gig in there. So it's all about the development of the encoding and decoding system that come with these. So looking at Hdbaset, you have this is a kind of product it's kind of looking at. So this is a sample I'm working with at the moment. So with Hdbaset T3, you have the advantages of the 6G transmission. You also have USB pathways, dual audio pathways, both for analog and digital. You have multiple LAN pathways, multiple control pathways, as well as your standard IR and distance. Now, we've been working with the Hdbaset T3 chip for some time. The development cycle from Valens, the chip manufacturer, has been a little bit slow because there's been problems with getting the chip to be reliable at the 100 meters at these extreme timings. We're almost there with it at the moment. But we're still working with them, as we're still seeing at the really extreme lengths of 100 meters, you can still occasionally get a problem with like 12-bit HDR. For that 100 meters, it's looking very much like the advice from Valens and Hdbaset will be for shielded Cat6a, so Cat6 shielded cabling, because the amount of bandwidth you need and the protection offered by a shielded cable allows this to go this distance. We're still working out what the distances will be with lower grade unshielded cables. It's likely to drop a little bit, but we will be able to use them. It's just you won't get the maximum 100 meters. So those are in development now. As you can see, I have samples in my hand, and these will be coming through in the first half of the year if all goes well. As far as AVX goes, so AVX is a development from a company called, you might not have heard of, called Semtech. Semtech are an IC manufacturer, much like Valens produce Hdbaset. Semtech actually produced the SDVOE chip. So the AVX format is separate to SDVOE, and it is a point-to-point system like Hdbaset, so not network driven like SDVOE, and this is again 18 gig in and out system. So at the moment we're looking at a few possible options there. One of the first things we're looking at is a very simple HDMI over CAT, or even let's just take the little thing out, fiber. So the advantages of AVX is they'll be available from the outset in both CAT and fiber. So this is a very simple, basic, small format kit that just allows you to get that HDMI, 18 gig HDMI signal from one place to another. So I say the advantages are that they're very simple in this format, but they also come in a more complex format that pretty much has the same I/O and capabilities as Hdbaset T3. So being the technology company we are, we're developing both of them simultaneously, and we will be taking some of each. Exactly what happens there will depend on how the development goes and what hits the ground running quicker. But these little small format ones will likely to be the first AVX products, and they'll be very cost effective for an 18 gig solution, but they're only simple HDMI in, HDMI out. There isn't any other IO connectivity at all, but this is because we're trying to just get something that will deliver that uncompressed 18G signal from a point-to-point system at a very cost-effective price.
Wonderful, thank you, Kev. Great that we'll be able to offer various technologies to suit different price points, different markets, etc., etc.
Yeah, and it's just perfect because of Semtech's work with SDVOE. They're able to produce the fiber ones directly, whereas Hdbaset, that's going to be some time down the road.
Wonderful. Let's have a look. We're going to look at some USB-C products today as well, but this has been demanded for a while now. USB-C connectivity, as more and more laptops and other devices have USB-C connectivity. So we are developing that, and as I say, we'll show you some products from the USB-C range shortly. AV over IP range, we've got some audio additions to our IP7000 range. The IP7000 range is already very popular, but we've recently added a transmitter wall plate to the lineup. So we now have a standard black box transmitter, but then also a transmitter wall plate. And Kev, do you want to quickly mention the audio products for some point?
We're working on an audio only AV over IP in the IP range product. So excuse me, this will have both microphone and line and optical in and outs, obviously microphone in. So you'll have a transmitter that will basically have analog audio, optical audio, and a microphone input with controls for the mic level and everything. And then you'll have a receiver that again has both optical and line level output. So these will be able to integrate into the wider AV over IP range and allow you to integrate them into the IPCS7 so that you can route audio around individually on these as you would with video and audio on the existing system. So we're just finishing up that development now. We're going through basically a third phase of the IPCS7 development. I know some of you have used it from the beginning. So phase one, it didn't do anything particularly special. Had all the lovely control, all the lovely drag and drop and all the screen grabs and everything. And then phase two, we pulled in all the integration of every single element and every single control and adjustment that you can do with the transmitters and receivers were all pulled into the CS7, and we added lovely things like the user mode for multiple users and being able to set up different zones within a system that different users can see. So all that will be maintained, And then with phase 3, we're adding all the audio, extra audio configuration that we need for the audio only products as well.
Fantastic. So ideal for audio only zones, and as you say, adding microphones in from a certain location.
Exactly. If you think about it, if you've got just an audio system, and you want to do that over network, then Dante is actually perfect. But if you've got a larger AV over IP, but you just want to integrate some audio into it, some audio only sources into it, for microphones or audio sources or active speakers or amplifiers and speakers, then it is quite a useful additional function that adds a lot of extra sales possibilities to that range.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And of course, we've been launching sort of second half of last year various streaming products, so streaming and recording, and that range is growing as well, which I believe we'll look at a model a bit later on in the session. So let's carry on through. Fancy graphics again, Kev. Look at that.
I know.
We'll very quickly touch on these, if you wouldn't mind, then, Kev, and then we'll move on to some of the products that are already with us. But these are a few products that are coming soon.
So we don't have pictures of these yet because they've only just gone through. But so the PU USB 2 kit is just a very simple couple of boxes. So this is the transmitter. I'm always rubbish with my camera. My camera's always, I'm used to it at the top, but my new laptop is at the bottom. So do excuse me when I do that and it goes in. So it's just a very simple transmitter with a USB input to connect to your laptop or computer, this is powered by it, and then a cat output on the other side. And then on the other side, you have a receiver unit that you need to power to get the power for the USB. And then it's just got 4 USB outputs. So the idea of this is just for a very cost-effective entry-level USB extension kit.
Just to quickly touch on that as well then, so we do also then have the PU USB AL kit, which is the sort of higher end model, which also covers bi-directional audio and LAN over the same cat cable.
Yeah,
so we will have both available.
So that's, it's worth looking at both of them to see what you need, because if you need to be doing audio over that as well, you can do that with a single cat cable then, so it adds a bit more flexibility to the overall range.
Great stuff.
The 1350 PL kit. So this is a development that's been a little bit of time in the making. You basically have, it's a 3-part kit. So you have a large 3-gang wall plate transmitter with 3 HDMI inputs and a. So I put it the right way up. I'll put it just to help you. I'll put it the right way up, just so it's nice. So you've got 3 HDMI inputs, VGA, audio inputs associated with the VGA, but can be routed elsewhere. But most importantly, this is a very clever bit of technology, because although it's Hdbaset T1, because we've been working with that chip for so long, we've managed to shoehorn basic USB connectivity into this system as well. So the idea of this is, although the USB is not super fast, it is asynchronous, so it will work really with touchscreens and interactive displays. So the idea of this is maybe for presentations and certainly for schools and universities. You have the transmitter, which is then powered by your receiver. Your receiver is your powered item. So this has obviously your standard Hdbaset input, IR input and output, HDMI output, audio output, your control input because it has a web GUI for controlling, relays and RS-232, and it has a built-in 20-watt amplifier. So it's amplified as well. So again, it's perfect for those school, university systems where you may want to have a whole system for a room. So this is the main item for it. This is what powers it. So this runs into this and powers this. And then out of this, you run on another cat cable. You can then connect to our new variant of our CRTG1 trigger that you may have seen before. So rather than this having a group of Phoenix connectors on the back and being powered via that, it's actually got a cat connector on the back. So this can go a much further distance, many meters. I think it's 30 meters. So you put the three together, and this would go in your desk, your teacher's desk, or your lectern, and you can control the input selection, audio muting, audio sourcing, volume up and down. And you've got a few things you can do there. So it comes as a kit together with these three items, and this is on order now and be available, I think, at the end of this quarter, and comes as a kit with these three items. But also, if I can find where I've put it, there will be another kit available that will be very similar to this. So the RX and the trigger will be the same, but you will have a cut down wall plate transmitter. So you have a cut down wall plate transmitter that has just gone to a more standard 2-gang, and instead of 4 inputs, it's only got 1 HDMI and 1 VGA, but again it has that USB pathway for touch screens and interactive displays or interactive projectors and the like. So again, that'll be that'll be another month or so after the 1350 kit that this one comes out. But yeah, so then you'll have options for the 2 different wall plates depending on how many inputs you need in your system.
Fantastic, good stuff, Kev.
So finally there, I'll just quickly show you the, if I can put this, just pop this stuff to the side. I'll just quickly show you these first two Dante products that we have coming out. So AUDT. So when you see anything with a DT in the code, whether it's in the middle or at the end, this will represent them having Dante integration. So for this one, you simply have a nice little box. Has a power and sync LED and a service port on it. And the back of it, you have your Dante cat input. And then here you have 4 analog audio inputs. Dante always works with mono audio, and you simply group 2 channels together and select them together for stereo. So this is just an input version. So you stick your stereo into 1 and 2. Doesn't actually matter, but the idea obviously is because it's based on the pro audio market. You don't do things in stereo because, you know, as I say, it was developed for live music events really originally. And so obviously guitars and microphones are all mono. So it's based on mono, but using stereo is just as simple as putting stereo in and clicking 2 things. It will automatically do that. So it's a very simple transmitter box, and then the reverse for the receiver box. You've just got your LEDs and your service port. You've got the Dante input here, wrong side here, and then you've got your 4 analog Dante outputs. So these are all on a Phoenix connector for ease of use and ease of connectivity.
Super. And as you already mentioned, we're already developing a HDMI matrix with the audio capabilities as well. Yes,
to be honest, I was hoping to be able to show you that today, and in fact I could show you it, but the reality is that as has happened a couple of times in the last year, I think basically an IC, a component that we're using in it, is no longer available, so we're having to slightly redesign it. But it will be like a 4x2 HDMI matrix that has balanced and unbalanced audio outputs that can either be used just to de-embed the HDMI signal, or can be used for Dante input and output, and have Dante in and output as well. It seems that in the last year, I think quite a lot of the problem has been the American-China trade war, where you're having a lot of technologies that are owned by US corporates being restricted for use, so Chinese manufacturers can't use these technologies anymore. So there's been a few products we've developed in the last year that aren't going to see the market as quickly as we hoped because of this this trade war, and this basically America saying, no, we own these these patents for these technologies. You can't produce technology with it. So it's a bit of a moving target. We'll see what happens with Mr. Biden, President Biden. Now he's been sworn in. I don't know whether these things will change a lot, but certainly, you know, a lot of the there's been a few products that have has caused a bit of a problem with. But you know, there's various chips available, and it just means a slight hardware modification, but it has caused a few delays.
Fair enough. Fun and games, huh? Good old politics.
I mean, these things are just outside our control.
Well,
I think they were outside most people's control. I'm not sure Trump knew what he was doing either, to be honest.
Speaking of control, let's move on to some products with control. No, so we're going to look at USB-C. So as I said right at the beginning, the demand for USB-C connectivity is growing and growing. Obviously, HDMI we've already got on many products. DisplayPort on a good selection as well. VGA still around, it's still being used, especially certainly by certain regions, but USB-C is obviously very popular now. So already within the lineup, you can see a selection there, a standard switcher, an Hdbaset transmitter, a tabletop transmitter, and a much higher end presentation switcher. So why would you want USB-C? Well, obviously it's a common connection now, and our products then tend to have HDMI as well and some other connectivity. USB-C can deliver data, including AV, and power over cable, which is very handy. And from our range, we're introducing lower cost right the way through to high-end products that also support the USB-C connectivity. So having a quick look, we're not going to delve into this in all of its details. We're going to cover some of this in our webinar next week. But the EL31C 4K22 is our starting point into the USB-C world. So as you can see, it's quite a small device, very, very small in its stature, with USB-C, HDMI, and mini display port. Any other points you want to quickly cover on that one, Kev? It is quite straightforward, isn't it, really? Just a switcher.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's quite a straightforward part. It looks pretty simple. I guess the real point is we spent a lot of time making sure that the auto switch and last memory functions work correctly, because it's especially tricky with USB-C, because when you're connecting to USB-C sources, which are primary computers, there's more of a natural delay as your computer sets itself up for that secondary screen. I'm sure you've all experienced it where you plug in a secondary screen and your computer goes ping, and it takes a few seconds. So a lot of work being done in the background from an R&D perspective here to make sure that the USB-C and the other inputs of all of these devices, when you've got some kind of auto switching, actually work correctly and register the USB-C, even though it takes longer for that AV signal to appear at the boxes.
Wonderful. And just to highlight as well, as we've done in other sessions, when you see a model like this with 4K22 on the end, that is our way of just saying at a glance it supports 4K and HDCP 2.2. Obviously the full specs are then listed as well, but just at a glance that does help you out with any of that. So again, this is our starting point into the world of USB-C, just with a simple HDMI switcher. And there's a very simple layout, which I'm sure you'd all gather from there, connected to, that does say or the bottom there. It's a TV, a monitor, or a projector, not all three, of course. Moving up, then we have our 1250PL-TX, which is an Hdbaset Lite transmitter, but again, with that added USB-C connectivity. Again, any other highlights on this one, Kev?
Again, you know, the auto switching and the support for CEC event management. If you've used some of our products that were released last year, you'd have seen that we have this simple automation system that in this product is only using USB-C, but another product, is only using CEC, but another product also uses RS-232 and other events. So the idea of this is to be able to create simple meeting spaces or simple environments where the users of that environment can very, very simply just enter the room and connect And what will happen is the screens, if they're CEC compatible, and we've checked on most major manufacturer screens and we haven't seen any problems, the screens can auto power on from standby, and they can automatically select the right HDMI channel that allows you to then simply walk into the room, plug your source in, and the screen or projectors via CEC in this case will turn on. And then when you leave the room and you disconnect, you can set up dwell time. So, you know, you can have like a minute or whatever, but after a period of time that you set, then the screens can be set back to standby again. So it's these simple automation processes so that you can have a very simple environment where you could just plug and play, and you don't need complex control elements in that location, which obviously add a lot of cost to that installation. Obviously,
Wonderful.
they still have, you know, telnet and RS232 commands. So if you wish to integrate them into a larger control system, it's very easy to do so.
Superb. And as we said, it's Hdbaset T Lite, so it would work with something like our PUV 1210 PL-RX, just a simple Hdbaset T Lite receiver. And of course, it's in one of our sort of more cost-effective ranges as well, which is really handy.
Bjorn's just asking about the USB power on the previous product. Bjorn, it is supplied with the USB cable and a USB power supply unit, but actually you can directly connect it to USB powered devices. Now, a lot of TVs now have the 1.2 amp USB output. It's when they first started with the USB, the power wasn't full, but most of the screens now have one of the USB input outputs that is 1.2. So if you have a USB that supplies that power, you could power it directly from that port.
Wonderful. Right, moving on. So this is then part of our PUV 1600 series. So anyone that knows the PUV 1600 range would know one of the key benefits is that it is reverse powered. So the receivers in the pair always send the power back to the transmitter. So hence this one then, it's a tabletop design, very similar to our PUV 1630 TTX, but with a USB-C input and mini display port. And again, it receives the reverse power and it has the same CEC functionality as our other models. Any other highlights you wanted to give us on this one, Kev?
It's if you look at the first one we had, which was a simple switcher, all of the switching work on that product has been applied to this product, and the same sort of CEC automation control. So what's happened here is we've taken that technology that we developed in there and we've put it into this tabletop mounted unit, and instead of an HDMI output, this one has a Hdbaset T output that, again, as Dan's pointed out, can be reverse powered by any of the PUV 1600 RXs in the range. So we're also looking at this and looking at one that will be designed just with an HDMI output, but this HDMI output will be designed in such a way that it's been very carefully designed to work with our HDMI fiber optical cables. So you can use it with one of the 10 or 20 meter CYP HDMI fiber cables. So we're looking to do that as well. So you have a couple of options here. You can either use Hdbaset T, or you can use you can locally power an HDMI version, because at that point you can't get the power back, and you could use an optical cable to still get up to your projector. So the one you use depends on where it's being sat and what power is available. So it's just in a slightly strange way, I guess, the Hdbaset T one will be out before the HDMI one, but that's because we're doing this work to ensure a really high level of compatibility with lots of sources and with HDMI optical cabling as well.
Superb. And just to throw in, again, this does strengthen the 1600 series, which is growing again. And again, just to highlight to anyone that is thinking about the reverse power, as this is a tabletop design, one of my favorite features there is that the only cable running to this tabletop unit is your CAT cable, because you don't need that separate power at the meeting desk or at the wherever it might be. So again, you've got flexibility of just moving the tabletop unit with its one cat cable out of the back to wherever it needs to go on that desktop. Just ideal, really.
Absolutely.
Moving on, these came out at the end of last year, but again, these are presentation switches with support for USB-C. You may have seen these models in our previous webinars, so we won't go into every single in and out of these units, but this, for example, is the EL8500 VA, so our flagship presentation switcher. Easy access on the front to all of the inputs and a lot of the main controls. And this is following feedback from installers and distributors who said if somebody, the end user, wants to select an input, they don't want to have a button that cycles through all the inputs and keep pressing it. You can just directly press the buttons there. On the right hand side as well, you will see that it does have, sorry if I don't cover it, the volume control. So that's volume or controlling things like the line output. So again, you've got instant access to control the audio output. And this does have
you can flick through there as well, because you can literally control the sort of the HDMI level kind of independently to the amplifier that's built into the unit as well. It's a very clever little system.
It is, and very intuitive as well. It's nice to use when you're hands-on with it. So again, in terms of this model, you'll see there the USB-C input, Hdbaset inputs as well. So you can draw feedback from another area or even another room via Hdbaset, and we'll cover that on the next slide. HDMI inputs and VGA. As Kev said, built-in stereo 20-watt amplifier and the microphone input with phantom power, and there's an audio mixer as well, so you can obviously adjust that when needed. And we've covered here as well the Hdbaset output, of course, that will support. So if you're putting in signals above your 10.2 gigabits per second, which is what Hdbaset can handle, this unit and many of our other products will make sure that signal is adjusted in one way or another so that you will receive something at the receiver end.
Yeah, I mean, that's a key function of all of these newer Hdbaset products, where, you know, we've really gone to town to make sure that no matter what you stick into it, even if it's beyond the bandwidth of Hdbaset, some kind of automatic conversion will happen to ensure you get a picture at the other end.
Superb. And again, then just covering those Hdbaset inputs, we're showing here the brand new PUV1660 that we mentioned, the tabletop unit with USB-C, but this would work with any of our 1600 series transmitters. Again, the presentation switcher is capable of sending the power back to your transmitters. So these transmitters, whether it's a wall plate, desktop, or a traditional sort of standard black box unit, you are sending the power from the presentation switcher back to the transmitter. So again, no need for additional power at the transmitter end.
So these are smart as well. So, you know, if the transmitter you want to use, the type of inputs that you want is not actually available in the PUV 1600 range, but is available in the PUV 13 or 15 range, then you can still use that. Before these units send power around, they check they communicate with each other to see if power is actually needed. So if you, for example, you need something that's not available in the 1600 TX range, but it is available in the 1500 range, as long as you realize you're going to have to power the 1500 range product, you can still use it with it. The 8500 VA will then check, and it won't bother sending power because it can't be received. So you're not restricted, and the same with the output. You're not restricted. All of the Hdbaset inputs and outputs send the power. But you can use ones that don't require power and locally power if needed.
Fantastic. And that covers that as well, really. Exactly as you say, you can simultaneously power 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, but exactly as you've said, you can work with other models in the ranges as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply that, you know, you're bound to have you know, some installations where there isn't the exact product, because we don't want to have, you know, we don't want every type of variant of TX and RX in every single variant of Hdbaset ranges, because it just becomes complex for you and expensive in a manufacturing point of view.
Very true. For simple control, there are loads of control methods, as Kev mentioned with other products earlier, for our devices. They can be integrated into larger control systems, but we do then have simple things like this. You can see the trigger input on the back of the unit, and you can hardwire that to our TG1 trigger. What's that, Kev? It's about 1.5 meters, 2-meter cable. It's not huge, is it? But
Yeah,
if
I
it's
mean,
on a
it's
desktop,
not
quite
super
close
long.
by.
We're working on trying to get a 5-meter cable, which is looking good as well. And on this particular EL85 VA and the 83 as well, what that trigger can do is it simply allows you to select sources. So the reality is the trigger has 8 buttons and you have 9 inputs. So you have to choose which 8 you want to be able to switch with the trigger.
Fantastic. And again, to specify then, as we mentioned earlier, the EL8500 and the EL8300, which we'll look at in a moment, both have that integrated stereo amplifier for some audio reinforcement. And again, just showing the variety in the range, you could, if you want, have a receiver somewhere else in another location. Another receiver of ours, for example, could be one with an amplifier. So again, just showing flexibility when you mix and match your presentation switcher with a variety of transmitters or a variety of receivers.
Bjorn's just asking whether you can use the cat version, I think, of the trigger with this. The simple answer for that, Bjorn, is no. This was developed before we developed the cat version of the trigger, but it will be something we consider in future, whether we use the short cabled version trigger or the longer cat version trigger as we develop new products going forward.
Wonderful. I won't highlight that because we've covered that. Just another one as well then is a slightly, well, in fact, I say slightly, a significantly more cost-effective version of this presentation switcher, which effectively takes away the Hdbaset inputs. So the other key features of the unit, the amplifier, the amount of inputs is the same, but to give us a better price point or a different price point, we don't have those Hdbaset inputs we'll see when we look at the back of the unit. Otherwise, as I say, the main key features are incredibly similar. So you will see here again, USB-C, display port, which is different to the 8500 VA, and then an additional HDMI input. And we've also then reduced one of the VGA inputs. So if the project doesn't require the Hdbaset inputs, this could be a really good alternative, as I say, at a very strong price point.
Yeah, I mean, with all of this stuff, I think you're all aware that every single Hdbaset IC that's in a product adds a significant cost to it. So yeah, exactly as Dan says, if you don't need the remote sources, but you need this type of presentation switch, the 8300 VA is the one for you.
Fantastic. Moving on, we do have some new products in, well, mainly 4 HDMI inputs. I've noticed, Kev, actually, we are probably a bit tight for time now, so we might have a bit of a brief look at these. But starting then with either a matrix or switcher. So these are in a nice compact form, which is very handy. Both of these have the built-in amplifier. You will see more and more of our products now have the built-in amplifier, just for added flexibility. And they're all nice and easy to use. Let's have a look. This is the brand new MA401. So it is very similar to one you might be familiar with before, which is the MA421, just that it's basically a switcher, not a matrix.
Yeah,
so
so this is just a cut down version. So it has all the same functionality. We're just finishing it's just coming out now, and we're just finishing the apps and getting them through through with Apple and Android and everything. So basically, it just, rather than having multiple outputs and Hdbaset outputs, we've just stripped the Hdbaset outputs out, so it's just 4 inputs and 1 output, but quite good for meeting spaces or for residential installation. If you just want an app controlled amplifier that can sit in your lounge and allow you to control all your sources and screens, this will work well. We've maintained the arc, I think, is one of the things to because it's got the amplifier. It's really key that we can pull back the arc from the TV. So when you're watching Netflix on your TV, we can still pull the audio back and send it out of the speakers.
Wonderful. Yeah, and as you say, just really a nice compact unit, easy to use, and as you say, when the app is then launched as well, simple control, which again is fantastic. Moving on, we then have this, which is a 4 input, 2 output matrix. So 4 HDMI input, 2 HDMI output, 2 HDMI inputs, DisplayPort and VGA with the matrixed outputs. Again, it has the built-in stereo amplifier, but it does work as a USB hub as well. So do you want to have a quick chat over this one as well, Kev?
Yeah, the idea of this is just where you've got multiple PCs in an environment, and you want to be able to work across different PCs or across different platforms, or you need to integrate something simply where you need the USB functionality as well. Couple that with the microphone and the ability for the microphone to be mixed and integrated into the audio channel, and it adds quite a bit of flexibility to a simple a multi-input dual output system.
Fantastic. Yeah, again, just nice to add to that range of, so it could be used for a variety of applications, which again is very, very handy. Again, just to look at the back end of the unit there, and just to specify, as Kev said, the integration with the microphone, separate audio output.
I think it's the first one with this, with like almost like a radio studio microphone ducking system on it. Which you can adjust as well, and you've got quite a few like compression-like adjustments for this ducking. So you've got, you know, when does it start to duck, and how much does it compress the other signal and things like this. So that's quite an advanced functionality that we're pushing into products this year.
Fantastic. Let me just quickly scroll through the final couple of points, and then we shall move along a little bit. Again, all of these, I think the majority of products we're looking at now are live on our website. So if you do want the additional information, feel free to check them on the website, or of course contact us afterwards, or contact your local distributor. This model, the picture is actually tentative, but this is going to be one of our new streaming products. We already have the SYX Stream, which is a 1 HDMI input, 1 HDMI output capture device to work with a PC or laptop. And this one then adds the additional HDMI input with some picture-in-picture functionality. I'll hand over to you, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, again, it is very, as far as the streaming goes, it's the same technology as the SYX Stream. So again, it's designed from the USB 3 output to be connected to a computer, which will also power the unit, and then it will then do the audio AV HDMI signal will basically be streamed across, converted and streamed across the USB to your computer, and at which point you can use standard packages for streaming or recording to record those signals. So the advantage of this is that it has the picture-in-picture function, so you have various multi-view arrangements with the two inputs, as well as full screen from both. HDMI input 1 is full 4K 60, so it's meant to be the primary screen, and then the HDMI input 2 is 1080p 60. So these can be mixed and matched and arranged on the screen in multi-view arrangements. But then you also have a very, very, very nice piece of software that comes with it. You notice on the unit it's got a audio input. Well, actually, this audio input can be switched between mic and line level. So that can be switched to mic and line. And as you can see there from on screen, you have a really nice looking, simple to use PC application that comes with it, that you can just set the whole thing up very, very quickly. You can see the selections there, the audio inputs, the mixer that pops up. So you've got a few pop-up windows as well. You can change the picture mode. You can choose the music source. You can change from mic to line on the inputs, and you can adjust and move things around. So it's a very, very nice piece of software that adds a lot of simple control that you can set up before you start recording, streaming, or both.
Superb. Yeah, thank you, Kev. So that's now, I think we're up to 4 products with our streaming ranges. So from simple in and out, just literally for capture, you've got the IP Extreme R, which we've spoken about in detail before, which basically has its ability to sort itself out. You don't need to run that with a PC live. And then you've also got the EL, the PIP version, which will allow you to have 4 inputs and picture-in-picture. So again, now, if you do need streaming solutions, we have more and more to offer.
Pete was just asking about phantom power. To be honest, Pete, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it did have at least the standard 48 volt phantom power. I'm not sure it's got the other voltages for it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kev. So just very quickly then, to summarize what we've been speaking about, Dante Integration to give us a bit more flexibility, and obviously for you guys that are selling it or installing it, if you do need that, we're working on future development to integrate more into Dante systems. 8K transmission, as I say, the market is still finding its feet with that, but we are ready to move when we need to. Hdbaset T3 and Avx for point-to-point or various as we move forward. With that, obviously 18 gigabits per second. USB-C connectivity, we've covered quite a bit in detail today. Expanding our AV over IP range, because that is so popular now in terms of its flexibility, scalability. So of course, increasing that. And as we've said, some streaming tools as well. We'd like to say as well, so obviously we're doing our webinar sessions. Pandemic dependent, of course, we will be then continuing with our real life sessions where we have people. You remember those days where you actually see people?
Yeah, I'd really like. It'd be really nice to actually, see some other humans apart from my wife and kids, and the Amazon delivery driver.
That is true. Those
are the only people I've seen in the last year, really.
So as I say, we will continue with our training sessions as we're doing today. We want to keep everyone informed on what we've got and what is coming. The webinars will continue. So there is another webinar, as I say, next week, where we'll be going a bit further into our USB-C products. But then also we've had for a while, a range of products that can handle USB, as in for things like KVM, touchscreens, that sort of thing. So we'll be focusing a bit more next week on USB-C connectivity. And if you do miss any of our sessions, they are available on our YouTube channel as well. Every single webinar or any of the information pieces that we've done, we do share on our YouTube channel.
And it's worth pointing out there, if most of you in this webinar now are our key distributors. If you want us to do any of these webinars directly with you for your customer base, just talk to us and we can arrange time and dates to do that with your customers as well.
Exactly right. Yeah, good point, Kev. I won't go through who we are, but we will just pop this on screen. So again, as you probably know, Kev and I do most of the webinars. We also have Henry, who thankfully as well is fluent in German. So he's been very useful recently.
He is German.
That would be why he's fluent. That does help with the fluency. Yeah.
So we do German Taiwanese, but he was born in Germany.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. Definitely helpful.
Yeah.
So as I say, we will be around to help with these things. As you know, obviously Kev's got a very technical background, technical mind, and as I say, we'll be available to run people through the new products as they come through. And of course, in terms of support, as you will all know, so as of July last year, we moved from a 2-year warranty to a 5-year warranty. So of course, we are trying to show that commitment in the products, but also in the support that we offer. Many of you would know that we have our UK support team, but we also have obviously a very strong R&D team, development team. So again, all of that is put together into what we can offer everyone now. For the future, of course, we aim for top standard of quality and reliability. We work very closely with our distribution partners in the UK and Europe and beyond. Product range is currently, so I'd say of our sort of up-to-date products, would I say, is probably 300 plus, but in total, there is a very large range of products available from us, and we aim to bring out a lot per year. Obviously, we're trying to offer as many 4K products as possible, as the demand for that is growing and growing and growing, and we've already touched on 8K today as well. Scenario based, as we've said during this presentation here, we're designing many of our products now to be more compatible with other products, and we're trying to offer better solutions for more scenarios. So again, if you ever have a question, as many of our key partners do, as you're mostly in the session today, come to us with any question you have about any type of solution, and we'll try and make sure we've got something there to offer.
And as I said, we'll tell you the truth and everything.
Yeah, that is one of the key things. We do. And as I said, the 5-year warranty.
What you want to hear, the actual technical truth.
Yes, nothing but the truth. But that does cover it. Look at that, 10:56. I think we've covered there pretty much the roadmap. So any questions after, do feel free to contact us directly. If you are one of our distributors, give us a call. If you're not, feel free to contact your local distributor and they'd be happy to help you as well. Are there any other questions in the chat, Kev, that you wanted to cover, or is that pretty much up to date?
No, we're pretty much up to date. I've been doing as they come in, so that's perfect. That's like we practiced it.
It is like we practiced it, which we did not.
Which we didn't.
Not. Super. So we do have a couple of
need to practice.
Yeah, a couple of moments spare. If anyone does have a question, feel free to unmute and ask. If anyone wants to put a question in the chat, feel free. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. But yes, feel free with any questions you may have.
It's great. Thanks for so many of you joining us today. Take care. Look after yourselves, and I hope you and all your families are all good. It's great to see you all. I hope to be in a pub with some of you at some point this year. I really do.
Agreed. Mine's a gin and tonic. Wonderful. Yeah, as Kev said, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us. This session will be available on YouTube normally within about 5 to 7 days, so feel free to check that out. Any questions, as I say, contact us at any time and we would be happy to help you. If you're available next week, same time, do feel free to join us for the webinar session on USB-C and other USB. Otherwise, we'll leave you to it.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Take care now. Look after yourselves.
Speak to you later.
Bye-bye.